The O'Reilly Factor, the #1 cable news show for 15 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Unresolved Problem segment tonight, the collapse of American foreign policy in the Middle East. That is the subject of the second Talking Points memo this evening. It is now clear that Putin and the mullahs in Iran are about to take over the country of Syria. They're working together. Iran sending in ground troops, Russia providing air cover for them. The overall plan is to keep the brutal Syrian dictator Assad in power, but really take over the entire country so Russia and Iran can dominate the entire Middle East. Even though Putin told the world his air force is in Syria to attack ISIS, the Russians are now bombing moderate Syrian rebels opposed to the Assad regime and funded by the CIA. President Obama allegedly supports those rebels. Obviously, we wouldn't be paying for them if he didn't. So Putin is really attacking American interests, is he not? Of course, the president and Secretary of State John Kerry have no cogent response to the Russian action. Add to this the Taliban capturing a major city in Afghanistan, Iraq still being dominated by ISIS, and millions of people in the Middle East and North Africa trying to get out of their terror-ridden countries and into Europe. All of this is happening because President Obama has not used American power effectively to blunt aggression and terrorism. All over the world, America is in retreat. And that's the memo. Now for reaction, will the American military begin to publicly oppose President Obama? Joining us from Washington, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Yeah. Will they?
I think you're going to see a very clear move towards trying to redefine our strategy. And Bill, let's be very clear on this. The military has to do things to be effective in defending the country. What has happened is the president and his policies have prevented the military from doing their job. You listed out pretty much every single issue where we're failing. It is not a failure because of military capability, lack of strategic understanding, or tactics. It is a failure because of the politicization of the intelligence process as well as the operations process. So I think we are to the point where you're going to see generals getting to the point of where they recognize they cannot be of effective service anymore, and you will see them walk. Or you may see them going to Congress. You may recall Lieutenant General Mike Flynn. You've had him on the program several times as a friend of mine. Mike went to Congress and laid out what was really going on with ISIS. And frankly, I don't know if Mike would tell you this or not, but that was one of the direct things which led him to being kicked out of DIA.
Okay. Petraeus did the same thing. He's already out of government. Former Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, said the same thing. There aren't really two sides to this story. I mean, even Alan Colmes, I think, would have to admit that the foreign policy is a mess.
Right.
But you can make an argument, and Colonel Peters has made that argument, that the generals in the Pentagon, the people who run the military services in this country, are culpable because they know the Obama administration's policies are weakening the nation. Yet they have not said anything, haven't resigned, haven't read put up the red flags for the public. So you can make an argument that generals are colluding with the president in the weakening of this country.
I think you have generals, Bill, who have to walk a very fine line, and let me try to define this. You have generals who recognize they have to protect the troops, protect the planning, so that no matter what, we have a military capability that's available to the civilian leadership. The problem is, and you'd agree with me on this, Bill, the civilian leadership. It's the Panettas, it's frankly the Ash Carters, who are the ones who are simply not pushing as hard as they should against the White House.
I don't think. Look, Panetta laid it out. No matter what he said, as a CIA guy and the defense head. Obama's ignoring him. Just not. You can't force the commander-in-chief to do anything. He's a commander-in-chief. One real quick thing.
Yes.
The big issue this weekend is going to be the planes. Yes. Putin's bombing the moderate rebels that want Assad out. All right. And the U.S. is bombing ISIS. Right. It's just a matter of time between those planes are going to get real close to one another. Do you know what orders the U.S. pilots have?
Bill, I honestly don't know. I will find out. This is a situation reminiscent of the old movie from 1960s, Ice Station Zebra, where you have national powers coming at each other. And simply put, you're right. The fact of a potential miscalculation where both sides go to each other is huge. With that said, Putin is doing things which we should have been doing. He's going to stabilize the country. I don't agree where it's going to be stabilized, but Bill, he's acting in our absence. Someone has to prevent Syria from becoming ungoverned space. Ungoverned space is the magnet target for terrorists.
Well, there's no doubt
Afghanistan
that with Putin in the air and Iran on the ground and Russia and Iran cooperating, they're going to run Syria. And that's what's going to happen. And Obama's not going to be able to do anything about it.
That's right.
Okay, Colonel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Waters on deck. Some semi-naked women in New York's Times Square causing a lot of controversy. We sent Waters to mediate. Up next.